What I thought that I will do is I'll make something which essentially starts your journey in campus life. Apart from all the personal experiences and great friends that you'll make, it's as Binu had mentioned that any kind of behavior change or any kind of skill development takes time, and hence it's a great time that I'm sharing this with you, because whatever you feel is a development area, or whatever you feel is something which is an important skill that will help you for a life in corporate. I think this is the time to start. And with the years left for you in campus, there'll be a lot of time for you to actually develop and master that skill. So I thought I'll cover this topic of skill development in campus for a life in corporate. Just to start off, as in first, simply to understand what is the industry expectation essentially from a candidate. So I've tried to capture a few points here. So any kind of learning, education or post-graduation is a very important part of the journey, right, of an individual's personal as well as professional journey. But how it has changed over the past 20 years, right, from a Gen X or to a millennial or what we say is Gen Z, is that in the workforce there is a continuous learning that is expected. What that means is that in the earlier generation, what used to happen is there was a clear cutoff that yes, your learning stops at the time of your graduation and post graduation, and then after that your work starts, right? But in here what we are saying is that the model has changed to the extent that your education essentially never stops. The structured education of course stops at a graduation or post graduation level, but there's a continuous learning that you need to do. You need to keep your mind open. The skill in itself is called something called learning agility. How open are you to learn something which is not a core part of what has been your degree education, of what you are doing currently in your role. Learning something entirely different is called learning agility, right? And that essentially makes you highly employable for not just jobs which are there in the market today, but also jobs that are there in future. Uh, a lot of research says that the jobs that you see in here today, almost half did not exist maybe 20 years back, because of the internet age and now the knowledge era. And hence it's extremely important for us to keep updated and go through these continuous learning cycles. Due to an unpredictable world outside, and also due to the business cycles that are continuously changing, what is happening is we will in any kind of work journey that you will go through, right? Let's say you start at 24 or 26 years of age and go on till 60. So in those 30 to 34 years, you will see that you will very do two to three very different jobs, if I were to bucket it like that, right? And hence while you may be ready for that first kind of bucketed job through your education, which is your graduation or post graduation, while doing those jobs you'll need to be ready for that second or the third bucketed job, right? And that's essentially where the continuous learning aspect comes in. What helps is, apart from whatever you're studying, right, if you really understand the different industries or sectors, right, read more, if you learn about different businesses, right, both successful and failed businesses, that essentially gives us an idea of what the world outside is like, right? So apart from the logic that we learn, which is very inside out, there's also an outside in perspective that we get, right? And that's extremely important for us to get to the root cause of why there is an issue, what is stopping growth, what will enable growth, right, for an organization. And hence that from that very insightful recommendations can also be given. So at this point, I'll just like to mention that while this presentation will take about 20 to 25 minutes, feel free to, type in your questions in the Q&A and chat window. I'll definitely address all of them. So one major aspect that has changed over time is that the generations have changed. Now is the generation of more of millennials and Gen Z in the market, and hence there is a feature of frequent job changes, lesser loyalty, and hence people are moving for whatever reason, right? Or the reasons are differing. The important thing to consider from a learning mindset for a candidate is that is the new job, right? And ask yourself this, that is the new job significantly different from the earlier one? Because if it is, then you are learning more versus if it's more or less the same job. Second is, given the organization and what people talk about the organization, is there a chance of greater exposure and capability building, right? Otherwise, essentially, you are pricing yourself out of the market, which essentially means that you are largely becoming less employable, because although you're moving, but you're not actually gaining that exposure, learning, capability development. So what are the key skills? If I just summarize this, the key skills which I've noted down is, first is industry and business understanding. Second is learning by self-learning. There's also this talk of, short bite-sized modules, which is to say that, our attention spans as people have reduced with all social media coming in, and hence going through elaborate courses, right, may not, be very fruitful, right? Because people nowadays, as compared to earlier, are not able to focus as much. And hence, as a result of which, there are a lot of good courses available online, a few paid, most of them free, which are, let's say, 10 to 20-minute modules, right? And if you get into a habit of going through it and learning from it, I think that is a great way of doing it every day, making it a habit, making it a strength area for you, and learning from it. So that's also continuous learning. One other thing, and in fact, I was hearing the question on better as an individual or better in a group. So in that, I feel that we should not have an ego, right? If we don't know anything, either way, whether we ask someone or we don't ask someone, the result is we still don't know that, right? So there's no shame in asking people and seeking support, right, for continuous learning. If you don't know something, please reach out to someone, and the speed at which you reach out to someone and ask, right, will actually shorten that learning curve for you, right? And hence, please go ahead with all humility and seek support. Ask people, right, if you don't know something. So humility, as I was saying, and learning agility, right, are going to be extremely important going ahead. So the new normal, we talk about the new normal now. People would have heard of it. Due to COVID, things have changed. The environment has changed, right? Now we were all working from home. Most of us still are. If the third wave is not as severe, a few of us will go back to office, and then there'll be a situation which is a hybrid workplace. So there is a setup both in education sphere and in corporates, where there will be a team in which there'll be few people face to face, and there'll be a few people who are remote. So how do you manage all of this, right? But before talking about that, let's understand what are the key changes that we have seen pre-COVID and during COVID. What are the various attributes of the new normal? So first is, of course, as I said, virtual working. So that has made life easy or difficult, depending on how you see it. So there's obviously work from home. In terms of a few organizations, there's also work from anywhere. So there are a lot of people working out of their hometowns with their families, and hence not in their city of where their office is located. Socially distant workspaces, so even and lesser in-person meetings. Even if there are meetings, they are in smaller numbers. What this means is that even if you are in office, you have to be 6 feet away, and hence the need to sit, stand, interact at a socially acceptable distance of that 6 feet. And hence that cohesiveness is somewhere there in terms of there in terms of maybe an engagement framework, but may not be there in terms of how many people you can accommodate in a workspace. Is that engagement really there? Are we able to acclimatize new joinees? So in all of that, essentially, now that things are opening up, I think, we're somewhere in between. We are tentative whether the third wave will come or not. But essentially what's happening is, at home, when we are stuck at home, it's a case of work-life integration. I also saw in the chat window, someone spoke about work-life balance, disconnecting, and thanks for the question. So we are essentially currently living out of office, which means what? Which means that, there will be things which we will, during the day, need to tend to, which are very personal related, right? And there will be things which are work related, which can go on and on, right? So hence, although it is important to switch off, it's important to say that, okay, post this time I will not work, right? And during, while I'm working, right, I will not do any personal thing, right? But getting that done practically at home may be a bit difficult, right? Because something or the other which comes in, right? And hence this whole concept of work life integration, right? Can you take your, entire whole self, right? And that's what Godrej believes in, that as a person, right, are you able to honestly dedicate time for work, right? And intersperse that with life elements. So just to give you a very a strong example on this, if let's say you're working from 10 to 12, you have some personal work, you need to go to a doctor, or you need to take your child, to wherever, maybe meet a friend, etc. So 12 to 1, you take that break, right? And then again work, but then maybe at evening work 1 hour extra, right? Just a very simple example. So that's work-life integration, right? So hence, I think we are moving more towards work-life integration, and of course, that's a personal opinion. But essentially, that's actually going to decide how you see that aspect of disconnect or emotional well-being, right? Because I'm seeing that it's increasingly becoming difficult to have that exact cutoff and work-life balance, right? And hence it's on one hand, it's extremely important for organizations to go ahead and say that yes, this is something that we will enable employees and sensitize leaders and managers to get it done for employees to ensure more well-being. But it is also on employees to actually go ahead and think that, okay, if I were to manage my entire day, then how am I supposed to manage it? What's also happening is there are no water cooler conversations, right, in office. And I'm sure that's the same with the university as well. So there's more formal conversations, more scheduled conversations, less informal conversations, right? So I think that's also an aspect that's a feature of the new normal. Uh, of course, lesser avenues to socialize and de-stress, and hence this is also an aspect where it's leading to some cases of burnout, and it's leading to that entire can we disconnect kind of movement. There are a few positive aspects that have come out of this new normal as well. Because people are closer to family, there's more family time, right? They're always with their family, and hence something, especially in tier 1 and metros, what used to happen is there was a lot of time spent in travel, long hours in office, and hence they did not get too much family time apart from the weekends. But that all changed, and there was a very positive movement because of the new normal. Yeah, I mean, people are better able to control their time, and what they're eating. They're not going out, and hence that's leading to a very timely and healthy eating and living kind of schedule. And your day's routine is more in control. Typically no one will come to you and say that, okay, let's go here, or can we discuss this, which is unscheduled. So you're more in control of your day's routine, so more work is definitely getting done. We've seen that productivity has improved, and there's of course a perspective change towards essentials. Once put to a corner, and the person is asked, okay, what is most important to you? So in the new normal, we actually segmented in our own minds and said that, okay, these are the things that I can live with, and these are the things that if not there, I can still live with, right? So they were able to distinguish the essentials and non-essentials. I'll also take you through the types of employment. So the employment scenario in India, right, although it was much more evolved in abroad, in India, I think more and more white collar jobs, right, are getting segmented into the types of employment, right, and which is not just full time. So you have the a full time type of employment, you have part time employment, freelancing, you have a contract or retainership employment. There are also which are very agency led, which is that assignment led kind of assignments, which is under piece rate, right, or project kind of assignments. And then there is always a continuous need to at an initial stage to learn as a trainee or an intern. So there are these various types of employments. A lot of white collar jobs are getting divided into all of these, right? And it is also upon us how open are we, as individuals, as students, right, to take any of these up and make our career as a combination of all of this, because that's where the employment model is going towards. Future of work, we hear a lot about future of work. Are robots taking over? What's AI, what's ML, and what does the future of work look like, right? So essentially what I've tried to do, for your benefit, is try to divide what is work essentially, right? I've tried to segment that what are the various categories of work. So in terms of work, one is of course something which is very rule or logic based, right? It's repetitive, and you know what's going to happen, even if 500 cases come to you or one case comes to you. So there is a lot of scope for automation, or a virtual assistant helping the employee get it done, right? So a lot of work is getting done in this space. The second is creative, right? This is something which is absolutely dependent on the individual. No machine can do it. It's extremely creative work, and that is a part of work which is the second part that I speak of. The third is strategy for the future. In terms of any strategy that you do, any strategy clarification or communication that you do, all of that, right, or any course correction that you do, all of that is something which is extremely person dependent, right? And hence this is something that's obviously not going to be automated. Human interactions is the last part of this nature of work, which again is very manual. It is something which is very person dependent. The person brings the conversation alive, and hence this is something that of course can't be automated. So we'll need to and whatever jobs that are coming in, new jobs that are coming in now, new jobs that will come in future, this will not change. You can always segment each kind of job under any of these four, right? And then you can see that what's the chance of it or part of it getting automated, right? So I think that's where the things stand. So what research says is, with today's technology, 45% of activities people are paid to do could be automated, and 60% of jobs could have 30% or more of their activities automated. What does this mean? This means that we need to be extremely agile as people, right? The job description for any kind of role, right, over years changes. Even that same role changes, right? In that same role, what we are saying is that 60% of those roles would be such that where the job description in itself, what required in the role, will change by as much as 30%. Right. So if 30% of it gets automated, some other work will come which would take up 30% of that time and effort for the individual, right? And hence that is something new. That's why learning agility comes in. Do you have it in you to learn continuously, and also and hence be able to do that job once that job description changes? And hence it's extremely important to be ambitious about it, to be innovative about it, to have that learning mindset, so that you're able to face that kind of change. So change management and changing yourself and being open to change is something that's going to be extremely important. So I'll just take about 5 minutes to take you through the Godrej Group and Godrej Housing Finance, what it stands for. So essentially, Godrej Group, as Professor said, is of course quite old. It's a 123-year-old group, one of the earliest companies that made in India, before that phrase was termed. It's quite diversified. It's into FMCG, real estate, chemicals, agrochemicals, and now housing finance, of which I am a part. It's headquartered in Mumbai, and the group definitely has a global presence. I'll give a very short brief of, because all students are just entering college, so they would not know a lot of sectors, and I'm sure the other sector experts will be explaining their sectors. I'll take you through what's the housing finance sector like. So the housing finance sector essentially means that they are companies that give loans for buying a home, right? It's a secured lending, which means that the house is there as a collateral. Real estate sector's performance hence impacts HFC. So if the real estate sector is doing well, the HFC sector largely will also do well, and vice versa. And who are the major players in the market? The major players in the market with about half of the market share are HDFC and SBI, right? Rest of the market is largely fragmented. So this is how the kind of housing loans get divided. So there's something called affordable housing, then there's a normal housing, and then there is which is also called prime lending, and then there's a luxury kind of housing, right? So that's how the kind of housing sector or real estate sector gets divided. A brief on Godrej Housing Finance, what we stand for. So, Godrej's first foray into financial services. The financial service industry is extremely mature and growing, and we've entered it quite late. It was established in 2018 as an NBFC, We started operations in November 2020, so we are about a year old now in operations. This is something where we have clearly defined our purpose. What we have said is that unlocking what is important to you through fair, fast, and flexible financing. What it means is Godrej's focus is on having a completely digital kind of experience for the customer, and secondly, getting it done for the customer, which means that whatever the customer would need, we would want to get it done, right? Which we see that a lot of financial services institutions have lost at customer touch and are very standardized in their response, be it through their bots or through their customer care representatives, etc. And we'd like to add the human element in it, right? So that we can understand the customer's unique situation and customize our offerings accordingly. Values-driven company. Currently, we have operations in Mumbai, Pune, NCR, and Bangalore. We are soon going to also start in Ahmedabad. And we only do retail residential kind of segment currently. We are also an organization that's extremely focused on diversity and inclusion. And this is not just Godrej Housing Finance, it's the larger Godrej group itself. And diversity and inclusion is not just gender, it's also on sexual orientation, person with disability, millennials, right? When we talk about millennials, we should also see what's our generational diversity, right? Then we also focus on ethnicity for companies that are based, that have a global presence. And of course, the point on thought diversity, right? Are you making people feel included? Are you saying that, okay, everyone has a voice, right? So that people get the opportunity to speak up, share their unique thoughts. And it's not, and the idea that it's not that someone who's a leader, only his voice comes across and his decisions come across. People contribute, everyone contributes their ideas, and the best idea wins and gets implemented, right? Whoever it may come from, right? So I think that's the idea that we go away with. So yeah, so that's about it. Thanks. You've been a patient audience. Any questions, Ravi, from anyone? Happy to answer that.
Sir, thank you very much in the first place. There are questions which have come in, and you were kind enough to take them up right when your session was going on. So there is one question which I think you've touched upon, the new normal. So it says interpersonal skills and ability is strongly affected because a lot of people have stayed in their home, and especially the students, while they were growing up, they had to interact and mingle. So what would be your suggestions for the students to cover this gap and progress very quickly?
Right. So you're right, Ravi, and thanks for this question. Essentially, what I've seen is that over the past 1 year, who's done this virtual journey, I've seen that there is some catch up that people have to do, right? But I'll take it in two parts. One is not just thinking of the future, but saying that what is the best that I can do of the current opportunity, right? Future, of course, we can plan, but in this time, right, when you know that you're virtual, you know that your possibly maybe signals that you do from your hand, right? And the way you speak, the way you present yourself, at least the top half of your body, right? And your speaking skills become extremely more important as compared to your body language or your posture, right? And hence, while we are here in this constrained environment, right, how can we, in this circumstance, focus on developing those skills, right? In terms of verbal communication, presentation, mannerism, right? How kindly we speak to people. So I think that's in the here and now that people can definitely develop. In future, if we are to go back on campus, go back to the workforce, right? And there's something in terms of body language and personality and interpersonal that we would not have developed as much as the question. Then I think that is something which we can definitely try and have certain dedicated sessions, right? While we are at home in a more collaborative environment, right? And try and do those exercises, right? So there are a lot of such virtual exercises which focus on team building virtually, right? And that builds a lot of connect, that builds a lot of team spirit, and you develop your interpersonal skills, right? I think that is where while we are in this constrained environment, we can do that. In future, definitely what we can do is that we can take a few courses which are very aligned, right? We can change our mindset and say that, okay, if I was someone who pre-COVID was maybe utilizing maybe 10 or 20% of my time towards developing my interpersonal skills, going out, socializing, maybe what I'll need to do, I'll need to disproportionately focus on it, right? And maybe focus 40 or 50% of my time towards that when things open up, at least for a year or two, just to make up for that, right? So it's all about prioritization and focus. And I think while we should definitely, to my first point, while we should definitely utilize this time that we have, right, and not just wait for things to open up, but we should definitely write it down and then change our priority order, right, in order to disproportionately focus on that aspect that, we are lacking somewhere, when things open up, so that, maybe 1 year down that line, we are up to date on everything in terms of our personality and skills.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ravi.